This is Andy Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and for the first time in 2021 I'm joined by promoter Eddie Hearn out here in Miami. Eddie, how are you?
I'm good. I'm surprised to see you out here, Andy. You know.
Why is that?
Well, I mean, it's Canelo fight. Well, I know you were here for the Smith fight week, but there's no Brits on this card. You know, you just fancied a little trip to Miami, didn't you? For Canelo. Don't lie. It doesn't make you a bad person. Do you know what I mean?
I'll go where the work is, Eddie.
Yeah, well, this is a big fight week, of course. There is the matter of the biggest star in US boxing, because I have to get, you know, I think it's a very close run thing with Canelo and AJ. They're two absolute monstrous superstars. And good to be here. Tested up, back in a bubble. Kind of like got a little bit of stick off the missus because she was like, oh, going to Miami, are you? But they don't understand. We're in a bubble. Do you know what I mean? So I said, oh, so you won't be going out? I said, no. I said, we're in a bubble. So we are in a bubble, as you know. And looking forward to it. Looking forward to doing some media today. Looking forward to a great card. Have you interviewed Amit yet? Amit Owner?
No, I haven't. No.
Mate, what a character. What a character. And I know that Canelo's a massive favourite in this fight, but Yildirim's bang up for it. And I think you're going to get a good fight, because I think he'll really try to win. I don't think he will, but he'll really try.
Talk to me about kind of getting Canelo to agree to this fight, and there's a lot of talk about the Billy Joe fight in May as well. How have you found working with Canelo? Because from the sounds of it, you've both built up a brilliant relationship. Yeah,
I mean, I've been lucky enough to be involved in a number of Canelo fights before. Of course, with Rocky Fielding and Danny Jacobs. And after the Danny Jacobs fight, we were backstage at the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. Same kind of thing. And he walked past me and he went, that's two now. Who you got next? So I'm like, I got Callum Smith, I got all these people. And obviously when he became a free agent, it was like, okay, how do we work together? How do we bring him to the team? This is the biggest subscription drive, the biggest star in US boxing and potentially the whole sport. So we went to work. One thing I've always had is a really good relationship with Eddie Reynoso. I think that one is he's quite clearly, you know, the man in terms of trainers at the moment, but also he has a good mind for developing fighters, and also has a fantastic stable. We work with him with Julio Cesar Martinez as well. So I reached out to those guys and said, and I understand what they wanted to do. And I thought what they wanted to do was really smart, the way they wanted to remain a kind of promotional network free agent. And my first aim was, let's get Callum Smith to fight. You know, I want to deliver this opportunity for Callum or Billy Joe. At the time, Callum was the fight that could be made. We made that fight. It couldn't have gone better. The show, obviously we wanted Callum to win, but you know, he loved the event, he loved the walkout, he loved, you know, it was seamless. There was no drama, and that's what fighters love, because they love to be able to have someone that delivers on their promises. They don't want drama, they don't want aggravation, they don't want problems. They want someone to take that all away, and we did that. Then we pitched to them the Yildirim fight and the Billy Joe Saunders fight. Obviously, they had offers from a lot of other promoters and platforms, and we got it done. So now we're in a situation where this is our second fight with Canelo. The third fight, all being well on Saturday, will be Billy Joe Saunders. And then, hopefully, for the rest of his career, we'll work together. I think the interesting thing, like I said, about being a free agent, it's a very dangerous thing, being a free agent. But if you're a massive draw, it's not a dangerous thing. So I like what he's doing, because now he looks and says, okay, I've got Yildirim and Saunders, and after that I want Plant. So Eddie, can we deliver Plant on DAZN, or do we go to Fox for that fight? And those conversations are already starting with Luis de Cubas and PBC, and we're up for either. Wherever makes sense for Canelo Alvarez will help be a part of the team. But it is, and I don't want to sound like a fanboy, but you do have to pinch yourself sometimes to realise that this Saturday we're promoting Canelo Alvarez at Miami Dolphins. I mean, that's some serious shit right there. Don't get any bigger than that. So it's an honour. And I love the energy of Eddie Reynoso and Canelo. I love their love for boxing. And it's a fantastic link-up.
Canelo's made it, being very vocal. He wants to fight 4 times this year. It would be 5 times from Smith up until the end of this year. Does that kind of say to a lot of the other champions, listen, if I'm doing it, I'm the pound-for-pound star, there's no excuse for any other of the world champions across any division not to be looking at some similar routes?
I think that there's always the argument for these big stars who box twice a year. AJ's one of them. You know, Canelo always boxes May and September. And I think that it's good to mix that up sometimes. I think you get to a stage in your career. I think AJ would quite like to be more active sometimes, but people don't understand as well. You know, his camp is 3 months. then he'll fight, then he'll have a month off, then he'll do all his commercial work. He's got so many sponsors and partners. So he's still working on other projects, but he's just not fighting. And I think that what Canelo's decided is, the game's changed in terms of the crowds and, sometimes the money in the sport, but I'm going to keep active because he's chasing championships, he's chasing titles, he's chasing legacy. And I think you have to admire that. And I think that means that when you get a Yildirim fight, and we know this is, a fight that he's expected to win, it's not, oh my God, he's wasting one of his 2 fights a year. You're always, when you're boxing twice a year, you're always under pressure to fight real fights every time. Do you know what I mean? You can't, because otherwise you've had a poor year, haven't you? So here, I don't think that Yildirim necessarily in Vegas, Cinco de Mayo, a traditional Canelo, it would be a letdown. But here, fans and the game are saying, fair play, go out, deal your mandatory in between, and then you're fighting another unification fight in Saunders in May. So, you have to respect what he's doing, and he loves to fight.
Saunders in May, is that all confirmed and agreed, provided Canelo passes the test on Saturday?
Yeah, we'll see on Saturday. I mean, I was trying to get Billy out here. I'm not sure if he can make it because obviously the restrictions of travel at the moment, and he's not taking part in the event, so it's a bit more difficult to get the approval from the US, but he may fly out here on Friday. We'll be looking to announce Canelo's next fight on Saturday, all being well, and obviously the front runner is Mr. Saunders. So it's a fight that we've been trying to deliver for a long, long time. I think it's one of the best fights in boxing. It's another champion v champion. You got the greatest pound for pound fighter in the sport against the guy who's been telling us for years he can do it. So hopefully we're going to find out if he can do it. But we'll see Saturday get through. Also, no injuries. Of course, Canelo's got to win, but he's got to win without getting cut or damaging his hand or all these things, because it's 10 weeks, I think, from Saturday. So, Billy's already in camp preparing.
Now, Eddie, we'll come on to the undercard another day this week because I know you're pushed for time, so we need to reflect on this past weekend and what have you. Josh Kelly suffering his defeat to David Avanesian. We haven't had a chance to speak as in you and Boxing Social. Just going back to that fight, what did you make of it?
I thought it was a tremendous fight and a tremendous card. I mean, look, we've had 2 weeks where 2 of the best cards and fight nights I can remember from top to bottom, but 2 fights where I guess the favourite, the Matchroom guy, even though David Avanesian's with Matchroom, got beat. You have to just separate yourself sometimes and say, I've seen a lot of people say, they shouldn't have put him in with that guy because he was too good or he was too tough. I think that's so bad for boxing. I mean, don't get me wrong, we want to guide fighters in the right way, but we're not looking to just give them easy fights because the sport will be dead. So like when another promoter comes out and says, well, I wouldn't have matched him in that fight, I would have put him in with a non-puncher. It's like, oh, well, fucking how exciting. So we've just got to get the mix right. And at the moment, we've done 2 shows where the fans are turning around to me and saying, more of that, please. We loved that. That was unbelievable. And we have to match these guys tough because the opportunities are far in between now. You have to get moving. You have to be in incredible fights. And if you're good enough, you win. And you look at the cards over the 2 weeks, Jordan Gill had a really tough fight. He boxed really, really well. He won. Robbie Davis Jr. had a tough fight. He didn't box very well at all. He lost. Right? Josh Warrington had a tough fight, but certainly not on paper. I mean, the guy was 25-1 to win by knockout. He boxed terribly, and he got beat. Josh Kelly didn't really box terribly. He just got beaten by a very, very good fighter in Avanesian, who basically was on a mission to come and win. But I hope people give Josh Kelly the credit. That was his 12th fight. Do you know what I mean? So it's a massive step up. But Adam Booth and him and the whole team believed he would win that fight and win it in style. But, don't knock the kid when he gets beat, stepping up, trying to move fast for you guys. Not you necessarily, but because he boxed a world-class fighter in Avanesian. And I thought he was brilliant, Avanesian. First 4 rounds, Josh was controlling the fight, and then David just didn't stop. The body work, inside. Josh obviously lost a lot of blood as well. But brilliant fight. And you can come again from defeats like that.
I mean, for David, there's a lot of talk about what could be next for him. What do you see being next? A lot of people suggesting Daniel Yellyusinov. Do you think that fight could be up?
It's a good fight. I think he should get a shot. we know he's won the WBA world title before, the regular version of that belt. He's been in with some big fighters, Peterson. You know, he just beat Josh Kelly off the back of that. He's been in a good run, went to Spain, beat Larraja twice. I think he should get a world title fight. I think he should fight Terence Crawford. You know, I think that if Crawford, and I know Crawford wants a big name fight, but I actually thought that when they were looking for the last fight, they might have gone with Avni. The problem is he was ill prepared against Kavaliauskas and lost that fight by knockout. And I really feel like he deserves a world title shot now. And, you know, we'll be pushing for a big fight for him next.
You've got Florian Marku versus RYLAN Charlton. First, you've got to say how tough RYLAN Charlton is, and it was a very good performance from Florian, different to what everybody kind of expected to see from him. What did you make of it about?
Thought Florian boxed really well. Another great fight, you know. Florian really dictating the fight, but then, of course, got clipped and got put down, even though he says it was a slip. You know, it was a good shot. I think RYLAN deserves a lot of credit as well. And RYLAN, I think for him the future is at 140. But again, people have got to understand, RYLAN Charlton, his stock went up on Saturday, right? People watched him, he was getting dominated in the early rounds, he came back, he never stopped trying, he put the other guy over, and he showed tremendous heart. So, you know, for Florian, he now moves up, he's talking about Conor Benns of this world, and, you know, for RYLAN, I texted him and said, 100% mate, you'll be back. Get down to 140, we've got plenty of guys for you to fight. So, you know, a loss is never a bad thing in that situation if you fight like that and if you show heart like that.
What is next for Florian?
I think, you know, he moves up now. There's some really interesting domestic fights. I mean, you've got a great fight on the Dillian Whyte card, Mickinson against Chris Congo, fantastic. He's calling Conor Benn. You know, it's not that I don't want to make that fight. I just think that I know what Conor Benn is doing at the moment. He's chasing those world-rated guys. So you always get a situation where there's a guy who, I think, Florian's had 8 fights now, 9 fights. You know, Conor's looking at him and saying, well, I want the guys in the top 15. But I will say this, that if Florian Marku keeps winning and keeps beating better fighters, Conor Benn against Florian Marku at some point at the O2 Arena sells the whole place out. The problem is if Conor Benn wins, they might pull the whole arena down, you know. But Florian's not on Conor's radar at the moment because he's got Samuel Vargas, then he wants to fight these top world-rated guys. But if Florian keeps winning, absolutely, that's a huge fight, huge fight. You know, right now, Conor's looking at David Avni, saying, I want him. I wanted Josh Kelly, but if he beat Josh Kelly, I want Avni. I mean, that's a tough fight, but that's a big fight. But first things first, we keep doing this at the moment, don't we? You know, Josh Warrington, Kanzu, Gary Russell, Josh Kelly, you know, Conor Benn, Amir Khan. Now we're doing it again with Conor Benn. And Samuel Vargas is a very tough fight. People say, oh, he's got a few losses on his resume. Yeah, look who he's been in with. Collazo, Amir Khan, Virgil Ortiz, more big names. So this is a really tough fight. He's had plenty of notice, Vargas, and it'll be a war on April 10th, and we'll see if Conor can come through.
Robbie Davies Jr. loss was interesting. I don't know whether you watched it back or not, but there seemed to be kind of a lot of disagreements in the corner between him and Dom. He felt he could have gone back to orthodox. Dom's saying stick to southpaw. Didn't really kind of seem like they was on the same wavelength. I don't know if you've seen it back, like I say, Eddie, but what did you make of it?
Well, I think everybody knew what was happening on the night. I mean, look, Dom's a very good trainer, so I can't criticise a trainer because they know a lot more about boxing than me. But I was watching it thinking, why are you fighting southpaw when he cannot miss you with the straight right hand? That is the shot to throw against a southpaw. So, but again, he's got his reasons and he's much more qualified than me. I'm just telling you as a fan. It looked like it was a disaster and you couldn't miss him with a right hand. I didn't think Robbie Davies boxed very well, but I thought he showed tremendous heart. And again, same thing. You know, I texted, I said, Robbie, every fight you're in is a great fight. Okay, so if you think about the Lewis Ritson fight, the Valenzuela fight, they're two like cracking fights. So again, he'll come again. He'll come again. It's never ideal getting beat, but if you get beat like that, we've got a future. You know what I mean? But what Robbie's got to realise now is another mistake, and then his career's in a bad spot. So he's got to go away. He's got to rebuild. He's got to come back in a good fight, and he's not going to come back in a 6 or an 8 rounder. He's going to come back in a proper fight at 140, and he'll have to win it. He'll have to win it. But I thought it was a really good fight. I didn't think Valenzuela, I mean, He could punch with a right hand, but that, say that he was limited, but that was his shot, wasn't it? I mean, he didn't throw a lot else. And actually, I felt after the fight, Robbie might have nicked the fight. But when it's not what the Twitter world said, it's not what everyone else said. But it was a very close fight. Could have gone either way. But, you know, the judges were on notice, weren't they? And, you know, maybe that helped them score for the away fighter a little bit more in that. But I don't think anyone could argue with the scorecards.
Unfortunately, Eddie, one Mexican for you was beaten on Saturday by Jordan Gill. What do you make of Jordan's performance?
I thought it was the perfect fight for him. I thought Juarez was brilliant. Like, we'll have him back all day long. Did not stop, did he? For 10 rounds. And this is what you want. You know, all these fighters on this card and our other younger fighters, I want them tested, Andy. But sometimes, if they don't perform well or they're not good enough, they'll get beat. But that's okay. Do you know what I mean? You can't just keep putting these guys in fights where they're just going to win. Yeah, if they box great and if they've got the skills and ability, they will win. But if they haven't, they'll get beat. And that was a classic example of, if Jordan Gill wasn't ready for that fight, or if he wasn't mentally prepared for that fight and physically prepared for that fight, he would have got beat. But he was, and he boxed really well. And now he can move on, and I think the fight to make is Isaac Lowe on the Fury AJ card. I think that's the perfect fight.
A final fight on that card before we do come on to a few other things away from the shows. Johnny Fisher making his debut, destructive win. What did you make of it?
Well, listen, who don't love Johnny Fisher? Do you know what I mean? I like being around people with good energy. I like being around good people. And, you know, I do have a soft spot because although I wasn't born in Romford, I spent 90% of my life in Romford. And I know Johnny's circle. I know some of his sponsors who I grew up with who now have local businesses. And they love him and they love to get behind him. So what we see with Johnny Fisher is young man, very strong, a lot of potential, but green as they come. It was green as Exeter University, right? And just got to take it at the right pace. Again, love the performance, love what I see, love what I hear, but just, you know, other fighters that we say we step up, you know, and are in tougher fights. Here's one where we take it nice and slow. I promise, and I know Johnny Fisher will give it 110% in the gym and 100% in the ring. Our job is to give him the path. If he's good enough, he'll be just fine. If he's not, he won't make it, just like all the others. All right? But how good to have a young heavyweight, especially from Romford, coming through on the domestic scene. They don't come around that often. And Solomon Dakers, another one turning pro that's coming up from your neck of the woods.
Got a lot of time for Solomon, but just keep with the heavyweight division. You announced Whyte Povetkin 2 in Gibraltar,
yes.
Eddie. Just talk to me about the move to Gibraltar. Why Gibraltar?
It was so difficult because we've been trying to take the fight to Jersey, Isle of Man, Gibraltar, somewhere where we could stage a live event and also have the possibility of crowds. So this wasn't looking likely, and in the end, the government put Portugal on the red list. Now we know Dillian Whyte trains in Portugal. So he would have had to come home a couple of weeks ago, which he didn't want to do. Then the option for Dillian Whyte was to come home and go into a hotel quarantine in Staines at the Holiday Inn, which definitely weren't on the radar. Then we wanted to take him to Spain, but then Spain started closing their borders to residents of Portugal until I think March the 1st. And it just became, Andy, we were just fighting problem after problem. And Dillian just said to me, Eddie, I can't afford to lose this fight, so I don't want to muck my camp up. You know, I was going to hire a villa for him in southern Spain, and then we were going to build a gym in the garden, a ring, and he was like, yeah, but all my sparring partners are here. They've got travel visas to get into Portugal. I can't, you know, and I was gutted because I wanted to deliver on March 6th. In the end, we made the decision. We spoke to Povetkin's team. Thank you to them. Thank you to the government in Gibraltar, who have embraced it, and it's going to be brilliant. The Rumble on the Rock. I mean, I know I've had a bit of stick for the name, but I don't care because I love it. How good is this going to be? You know, we're all going to go over there as media, as teams, as fighters. We're chartering a big plane to fly from London into Stansted. We're going to bubble first in London, right? So you're going to turn up, you can do your test in London, isolate. Only those who test negative can get on the plane. Then we fly to Gibraltar, then we test again, and we have a big show with fans by the looks of things as well. So I'm excited about it, really excited. Same strap for the event, repeat or revenge. Must win for Dillian Whyte, but he had to give himself every chance to be 100% prepared, because Dillian Whyte must beat Alexander Povetkin on March 27th.
Now, you mentioned fans returning, Eddie. The government giving us some positive news the other day, looking around May time for fans to be able to return to live events. How does that impact your kind of scheduling moving forwards beyond the shows you've already announced?
Well, I don't think we can take anything for a given. That's the first thing. And although they talk about fans being allowed back in from May the whatever it is, the 15th, there's no numbers. So what they're not going to allow is for you just to go straight back to the O2 and just bang it out. I don't believe. I think they're going to return to the system before of 1,000 or 2,000. If it's outdoors, I think you'll get more. So for instance, I'm planning a show for March 15th. I'm also planning a huge show for April 24th or May the 1st, one of those 2 weeks. So do you push those back to try and get a crowd? I think no. We've got a good model now of behind-scenes stuff that is working well. So we're going to keep going with that until we can get people back. And once we get till end of March, then we'll start going back to arenas, looking at a Lewis Ritson fight end of May. And then it's impossible to say, hand on heart, that they will allow full-up arenas in May or June. Impossible. I think they're allowing 10,000 at Wembley in June or something like that. Is that right? So, yeah. So I think that's the kind of numbers they'll start with. But great news. And as we start planning, we have massive plans for Fight Camp. It's going to be outrageous. One thing's for sure, Fight Camp will have fans out this year. So that's really good. Great news, and hopefully things can keep improving.
What was the decision behind returning to Fight Camp, Eddie? Because I remember last year you said you wanted it to be kind of just a one-off event, so why are you taking things back
Because it was so big. The ratings were so big, the response was so big. We want to do it every year, and Fight Camp has become a brand. Everyone's talking about Fight Camp. They remember it, right? They remember that crazy 4 weeks in the garden where Alexander Povetkin knocked out Dillian Whyte, and we had Harper against Tasha Jonas and Eggington against Cheeseman. So many great fights. So we want to do it again. And that's going to be huge in August. We're going to do 3 or 4 weeks consecutively, this time with fans.
Eddie, I've got to ask, what is the latest with AJ Fury? You mentioned it a couple of times earlier in this interview. It seems to be that there's always kind of every 2 weeks you'll be asked, and he's kind of pushed back. Is there any risk that fight does not happen this year?
I don't think so. I mean, we're super close now. You saw AJ's comments on social media yesterday. He rarely, commits to posts like that without a feeling that we're very close to doing this now. We've been working really hard with 258, AJ's management company. He had meetings with them yesterday. They've done a great job. We've done a great job. Everybody involved's done a great job. And I think you're going to get some positive news very soon. Don't want to say too much more on that, but in answer to your question, I don't think there's a risk that this fight doesn't happen this year.
Where do you think it's most likely to take place?
I mean, again, going back to June, the problem is at the moment, if we turn around to the government and said, can you just confirm 100,000 at Wembley in June? Of course, the answer is going to be no. So we don't want to delay the fight. Start looking at they must do these 2 fights this year. So we are now talking in a much deeper process with a number of sites that have made considerable offers to stage this event. First things first, as I've always said, we get the fight signed, where we can say both fighters have signed, this fight is on, and then we finalise the venue. We don't rule out the UK. I've seen, we're back open from June. So okay, so we're back open. So you can guarantee me we'll have 100,000 at Wembley for that date? Yeah, they won't. So that would be the dream, but we can't ignore the seismic offers from other regions to stage what is not just the biggest fight in boxing, one of the biggest sporting events in the world.
I've just got a couple more quick ones because now you've got to shoot off. Felix Cash, Denzel Bentley. I've seen some people suggesting that Felix is going to still go down the European route. Is the Denzel Bentley fight 100% going to go ahead?
I believe so. I mean, look, we do have a European title shot for Felix, which is very tempting for him to take. But we can't, I can't, excuse me, itchy foot. I can't stand here and say, oh no, we don't like the Denzel Bentley fight. I bid on the Denzel Bentley fight. I think it's a good fight. And we believe as a team that Felix wins that fight. And I think if he can win that fight, I think it's big for his career because I think it's going to probably headline. And if he can beat Bentley well, I think his stock rises and his profile goes up. So whatever him and Tony Sims want to do, I think there's arguments for both. But I'm more than happy for him to take the Denzel Bentley fight on the Queensberry show.
And finally, Hunter versus Hrgovic, IBF.
Yes. Well, listen, I've been making Hunter offers for this fight for a long time. He hasn't even replied. You know, so now he's got to fight him, and now we're in negotiations for that fight. Tremendous fight for both. Hrgovic Hunter, great fight. For the mandatory, you know, we know that mandatory is going to take some time, but they'll fight probably April, May, and then I guess the winner will have another fight in September, October, and then probably the first part of 2022, that mandatory will be due. And, you know, the winner of Hunter-Hrgovic will be getting a shot at the world heavyweight title.
All right, Eddie, final message to everybody. Bring some positivity to the world. What are you going to say to everyone?
Well, we're back normal, aren't we? Not normal, but we're getting there. We've got June 21, 2 days after Bojo's birthday. Ooh, how convenient. It seems a long way away, but listen, if we've done a year, then, you know, just hang in there. We've got March coming up. April, May, June, bish, bash, bosh. We can go outside in April, lovely jubbly. It's been a graft, isn't it? I mean, you come here, and I was driving here last night, looking at people on the streets, in restaurants, thinking, wow. And, you know, we'll have 15,000 people there on Saturday. So it's nice to come somewhere where life is returning to normal. That will soon be upon us. So tune in this weekend. It's a big weekend on DAZN. You know, we've got Scardina boxing in Italy on Friday night. We've got Joseph Parker against Junior Farr on Saturday. It'll be Saturday morning on DAZN. Really good heavyweight fight. And then we've got Canelo Alvarez and, of course, Julio Cesar Martinez, who is a Brit favourite as well. So this is a big weekend. Next weekend, I'm gutted with the Dillian Whyte fight changing because I was going every single week of the year. Next weekend, we're going to have a weekend off. But, you know, Chocolatito against Estrada the week after, and then a Cody goes for the world title, and then Whyte Povetkin. So it's non-stop. Stay out, stay positive, and we'll catch up later in the week.
I know that was going to be the last one. This is the last one. Parker Farr. Yes. There was a lot of confusion about that being on DAZN and that. Now it is. Can you just kind of clear everything up as to why it wasn't officially announced earlier?
I think that someone put a tweet out from their account to say it's not on UK, which was a mistake, and it is on in the UK. It's on the global service, and it's a fantastic fight for UK fight fans. Again, you know, Friday night you got our show from Milan. Saturday morning you got Parker Farr, and Saturday night you got Canelo Alvarez. I mean, ain't a bad little weekend. 3 shows, 2 days, 3 countries. Just the start.
Eddie, I'll see you in 6 hours' time for another interview.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Eddie.